Nazi Germany is one of the most studied and well-known periods in history, frankly because it had something to do with World War II, which spanned across the entire world and so many people were involved in it. So its legacy is known a lot today. But what a lot of people don't know about Nazi Germany is the culture that it had. The culture was impacted immensely during this time because it wanted to be created into the Aryan race that Hitler sought to make. It meant to be perfected, and it meant to be only what he wanted and truly believed was truly Aryan. The people that were seen as perfected in the history of German music was Richard Wagner and Ludwig van Beethoven. Beethoven is known by a lot of people today because you know a piece by him, maybe your grandma sang it, maybe you heard it somewhere. He's very well known. A lot of people in the world know him. Someone that's not so well known is Richard Wagner. But this was the one that people really saw as Hitler's true identity in musical form. This was because Richard Wagner believed the same things that Hitler believed. He didn't like Jews. In fact, he even published a book on it that talked about how they totally poisoned the music culture of the time, even though it was before Hitler was even born, or even 20 or 30 years before Hitler was even born. But Richard Wagner still had this idea that Jews were poisoning the musical race, as well as a lot of other ideas that kind of played along with what Hitler believed in. But one of the main things that Hitler really wanted to see in his music was heroism. This was big in German history, because they always wanted Germany to be heroic. Maybe this was probably from the fact that Germany is created out of these Germanic tribes, these very strong Germanic tribes. Even in fact, they took over Rome and sacked it, and pretty much the reason that Rome isn't there anymore. The nation, not just the city. So, heroism is what Hitler wanted in his music and always wanted to continue through the rest of German history. They wanted to be strong, they wanted to be tough. They wanted to be what everyone else feared and what everyone else wanted to be. And one thing they also wanted to do was get back to the way that old Germany had in their music culture. You know, polka style, stuff that talked about Germany, the hills being beautiful, the hills are alive with the sound of music, that kind of stuff. They wanted Germany to be, you know, what was in the music and what was part of the music. Plus, they wanted to be easy to hear. In the musical language, we call this accessible. Accessible means that anyone can pick it up, anyone can listen to it. In art music, and art music is like classical music, what we consider classical music, art music, and that's what accessible is to us. It's being to know what it is without having to have any previous knowledge on it. And one way that he was going to get to having this was through the youth. It's timelessly known that if you control the youth, you control the future, because the youth are the future. The youth were very centralized at this time in groups. I mean, even today we see youth being groups like the Boy Scouts, or whether it's through a church or the community. They're always in a group, learning from people that are older than them or learning about just life and themselves. So Hitler knew that this was a way that he could create his perfect Aryan musical race when it came to music in his culture. And one of the things that he thought was poisoning him at the time was jazz. Jazz made its way across the entire world. Everyone loved jazz. This was out of the early ages of jazz, so everyone knew it now. It wasn't just in New Orleans, it wasn't just in the U.S. It got to France, it went to Germany, it went to Spain, it went to Italy. Jazz was everywhere. And it was what kind of paved the way for the rock and roll scene that was soon to come up. So jazz was meant to be taken out. And one way he kind of did this was through putting jazz with lyrics that had something to do with Germany, or lyrics that something had to do with his Nazi government. But he took a lot of the experimental side of it out. And the way he controlled the adult population, the older population, was through the Reich Musikkammer, or the Reich Music Chamber Ensemble, or chamber group. There really is no direct interpretation in English, but you can just think of it as the Reich Music Chamber Group. Let's just say that. So basically, this was started by Joseph Goebbels, the master propaganda person that did everything that had to do with propaganda in the country. He issued these visas to everyone. And basically what these visas did is it allowed you to practice music. It's like a driver's license. You were allowed to do what you've studied for and what your profession was. Kind of like if you were a symphony music orchestra, or if you were in a group that had anything to do with music, this was something you were allowed to do because of these visas. Obviously, what these visas also did was eliminate anyone that they did not want a part of the musical culture of Germany. This was an easy way for them to eliminate Jewish music. This was an easy way for them to eliminate jazz. It was an easy way to eliminate kind of the rock and roll style that was sort of working its way in a very old way. But this was how they basically eliminated anyone they did not want. Anyone that was not loyal to Germany, anyone that they knew would not be loyal to Germany, or anyone that was Jewish, anyone that was what they would say was not part of their Aryan race, would be not issued a visa, so they would not be allowed to practice music in that country. This is how they also eliminated the experimentation of musicians. Arnold Schoenberg is a musician that is very well known from this period. Arnold Schoenberg, kind of when the wind got caught about these visas and how he knew that Jews were not going to be accepted, himself being a Jew, he decided, well, it's time for me to leave because there's nothing further here that I can do in Germany. I'm going to be asked not to practice music or do my profession of music. So he left and migrated to the U.S., as well as many other people that did not, want to be caught up in this whole issue of I'm not going to be able to do my profession or do what I feel like I'm destined to do. But one that stayed was Richard Strauss. He is very well known during this time because he produced a lot of music that was beautiful before Nazi Germany. So you might think of the 20th century Fox, the dun, 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 dun. That was Richard Strauss. He wrote that. So he stayed because he was fearful for his daughter-in-law who was Jewish. And in fact, he was put in charge of this Reich Musikkammer by Joseph Goebbels. And he didn't really produce a lot of music during this time that he liked because he didn't feel that it was something that he was creating himself. It was something he was being told to create. So this is what happened with a lot of people during this time. But basically, that's music in Germany. Thank you.